Friends, welcome to the webinar organized by Bengal Welfare and Cultural Association. And the topic of discussion is how to deal with COVID-19. With this, BWCA is launching a series of interactive webinars which aims to provide medical information and tips to maintain emotional well-being during this challenging time. I invite our president, Shri Alok Bhumi, to say a few words. Alok.
Thank you, Shantanu, and hello and good morning to all participants. I'll be really brief here because we are here to listen to our panelists. First thing that I would like to do is to thank profusely our this COVID support team, which was formed basically to provide, the COVID affected families with some kind of a logistic support service. And this webinar or a series of webinar, as Shantanu just mentioned, is a basically it is a part of this exercise to help fight COVID, and this is a great initiative by this team. Friends, providing this kind of service, under normal circumstances is difficult, and doing it now when there is COVID scare all around us is extremely difficult. Therefore, my salute to all of you personally, Mohua Gupta, Kumardeep Banerjee, Shantanu Bose, Partho Mitro, Proshun, Dr. Shomik, Dr. Neelam, and many others in this team who are doing a marvelous job. You all guys really deserve a big hug from all of us. In fact, I must tell you that we are extremely fortunate that we have two eminent doctors in our this COVID support team, Dr. Shamik Bhattacharjee and Dr. Neelam Roy. They are our pillars of support in this grave situation. They have agreed to spare time to be our expert panel for today's webinar, and I profusely thank them for this. We are all passing through, very difficult time, as you all know. This is the time when we must stay connected with the community virtually, even though we are maintaining social distance between us physically. This is the time when we really need to share our experience on COVID, and we need to seek the correct medical advice so that we can maintain a COVID appropriate behavior. We need to help families who are in distress, and if we are in a position to do so, we must do it. Also, we should, many of us, often I found that we hesitate to seek help when we need help. And I think this is an opportunity where we would like to mention that if you are in need of help, please do not hesitate to contact us. The objective of forming this kind of a COVID support team is to help and to seek help. And I think if you are in a position to help, please come forward and be a part of this team. With this brief, I would now hand over back to Shantanu to take this program forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alok. Friends, this is your host, Shantanu Bose. I'm honored to have our panelists today, Professor Dr. Samik Bhattacharya and Dr. Neelam Roy. Dr. Samik Bhattacharya is head of unit Department of Plastic Surgery, Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, and Dr. Neelam Roy is head of Department Community Medicine, Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital. It is a pleasure to have both of you on the show. The format of the show is such that the panelists will discuss the COVID situation in the country and the way to deal with it. We have 20 minutes question and answer session after the discussion. Those wanting to ask questions can please write in the chat box or raise their hands during question answer hour. It will help everyone to get a chance to speak. Requesting please everybody to mute your mics. I now invite our panelists to take over. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Neelam, you're there. Okay. Hello, can you hear me all? You just raise your hand like this to know that I'm audible.
Yes, yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So I and Dr. Neelam, we are colleagues from an institution which has two great names, Ram Manohar Lohia and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So we represent the Central Government Hospital in Delhi, and both of us have decided to break up this discussion into four parts. An overview understanding of the infection, what exactly happens with COVID, and how the body responds to it. That I will take, followed by the preventive aspects. The most important aspect will be taken by Dr. Neelam, and then I will give an overview of what are the logistics and the treatment involved if you get COVID, and lastly the vaccination part again will be taken by Dr. Neelam. So in these four parts, we will be discussing COVID. So as we go about, basically, COVID-19 is it's a kind of a new flu. It's not it's a virus with a new kind of structure, which is making it different in the sense it is highly infective. One, and secondly, it has a significant amount of mortality because it affects the lungs. So if we see the virus basically enters our body through the portals, which are the mouth or the nose or the eyes, and the virus flows by droplets, which is expelled from a infected person, or if you touch the areas where those droplets have fallen on surfaces, and then you touch your nose or eyes or mouth, the virus enters your body. Now, what it does when it enters the body, it basically virus is an organism which basically stays in the cell and multiplies inside our cells. So it goes into the cells and starts multiplying. Initially, the mildest form of COVID infection will be in the area of the nose and the throat, which will just manifest as common cold, sore throat and common cold. So most of the people will have that. And the next step will be a slight more, the infection will be more profound in the sense that it goes down into the windpipe. Then you will have cough, fever, because the virus, it will all depend upon the virus load. If you have more virus load in the body, you will have more fever and cough. This is the next level of, next higher level of infection you can have with COVID. And the most devastating one will be the involvement of the lungs when this virus goes down into the lungs and goes into those air pockets which you have in the lungs, infects those areas. And what exactly happens in the lungs, you have to understand that the oxygen from the lungs goes into the blood inside the lungs. So when the lung is destroyed, the gas exchange, the oxygen is not delivered into the body. So that's why we always say that the oxygen saturation is falling. Basically means the body is not getting enough oxygen to survive. It's basically choking. So that's the basic overview of the continuum of the infection from a very mild form to a very severe form. Now, you have to understand that only 1/5 of the cases, a very few of the cases, like 1/5 of the cases go into those severe forms. But we really don't know who will become serious and severe. So that makes us that is the reason that we all have to be very vigilant about the signs and symptoms of the infection. If you have just common cold kind of thing, and if the fever is, and you then go on to have fever, the cough doesn't subside, that means that you have gone from the mild to the moderate side and you can become serious. And the most important part in this whole process is that you have to get tested. You cannot just sit at home and just think that it is just a common cold and it will pass off. If I get tested, then I might be confined to my house. You have no option of thinking like this. because you don't know when you will become serious and when you are in that 1/5 category. So you have to understand that once you have a mild symptom, there is a possibility that you can have a severe disease. Once you have a severe disease, your reaction time goes down because the lungs gets affected in a very, very fast pace. What do you call a cytokine storm in scientific parlance? We need not go into it, what exactly happens, but the fact of the matter is that you land up having destroyed lungs in matter of hours. So you have to act before it happens. The only way to act is you get tested and you start monitoring yourself at home. So I will go into the logistics of treatment and monitoring in the later part. So basically, I've given you an overview of what exactly happens in this infection. The next part will be taken up by Dr. Neelam Roy, who will tell you, and this is the most important aspect. See, this is a pandemic. The medical community cannot just fight it out. The whole community, the whole country has to fight it out. We can only treat, but you can save yourself. If you save yourself, lesser people will be affected and lesser people will be needed to go to the hospital. In that case, our system will not get overwhelmed. So it is that we have to, it is not the medical community which is fighting this. We have to fight it out. We have to save ourselves. Unless we save ourselves, we cannot go ahead. So Dr. Neelam Roy, on to you for the most important aspect, the prevention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samik. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
audible.
A very good morning to all. I'll give you a brief about the preventive aspects of COVID. As Dr. Samik rightly said, prevention is the key to control this pandemic. So that is the most important part. I would like to share my screen. Give me a minute, please. I would request host to allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, that has been activated.
Okay, thank you.
It's good.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
So Dr. Samik has already told you about various aspects of the disease regarding signs, symptoms, and everything. As you can see in this graph, this is the global picture. As you can see, we are facing peaks, then there are phases where we have less number of cases, then again we are having more number of cases. As you can see in this graph, there is a kind of plateau in the number of cases. If we see our country's graph, if we compare this phase in 2021 with 2020, you can see the magnitude. So magnitude is many-fold as compared to the previous year. And hence we need to take appropriate measures to control this pandemic. And appropriate measure here, I mean by measures, preventive measures taken at the individual level. So each one of us has to take ownership to control this pandemic. We have to follow all the precautions. So similar is the picture with Delhi. So as you can see, there is some decline in number of cases, but there is no scope of being complacent. As we have seen the result of being complacent after the first phase, now we are facing a larger magnitude of the pandemic. So this has been discussed already by Dr. Samik. So we have direct as well as indirect route of transmission, direct through coughing, sneezing, and get infected. Indirectly, when droplets, they settle down on surfaces and we touch those surfaces and we get infected. So common symptoms are fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, and there are less common symptoms like body aches, pain, diarrhea, conjunctivitis may also be there. There may be loss of taste or smell. But the best part is only few, as said by Dr. Samik, 1/5 of the cases, they land up in hospital or they get the severe disease. 80% of patients, they have mild disease or they are asymptomatic. That means they don't have any symptoms. So coming to prevention. Prevention is the best method to control any disease. Prevention in case of COVID would mean following certain behaviors which are called as COVID appropriate behavior, which includes wearing mask properly, then respiratory hygiene, then washing your hand frequently, and maintaining a social distance. So I'll be discussing in detail each of these components. Then wearing a mask is the most important component, because we have seen people wearing masks which is not as required. So the correct method to wear mask is it has to be properly fit. If your mask is loose, then it has no utility. So you have to wear a mask so that most of the masks, they have a nasal clip. So it has to be over the nose, and the external pleats, they should face downwards. Otherwise, if they face upwards, they will form pockets wherein the infective droplets can stay in the pleats and they can get infected when you touch the outer surface. So the external pleats on the mask, they should face downwards. And once you wear the mask, you should open these pleats so that you cover your nose and mouth completely. And it has to be tied up properly so that all the there should be no gap between face and the mask. And the most important is, do not touch the front of the mask, because front of the mask will carry the droplets and infective agent. If you touch the front of the mask, your hands will get contaminated. So do not touch front of the mask. Then when you have to remove the mask, remove by first untying the lower string, then the upper string. And if it is and you have to replace the mask every 6 to 8 hours, or whenever it gets damp or humid. So you can wear safely a mask for about 6 to 8 hours. But if it gets humid or damp, and then you have to discard it immediately. And after discarding the mask, you have to clean your hands after, and then dispose of the mask in the appropriate dustbin. So you must have seen people wearing masks without covering their nose. You must have seen masks hanging from the ears or hanging in the neck. So this should be avoided. The mask should be tightly fit, covering nose and mouth completely. So this has to be kept in mind while you are wearing mask. And it is recommended, you can wear a fabric mask, but when you are going to public places like markets, it is better to wear a double mask. It will protect you better. So as I said, individual level actions to prevent COVID is very important. If you are protected, you are protecting your family, your neighbors, the community at a large. So this is very important. So you have to wear mask all the time whenever you go out, and you must remain at home and go out only when it is necessary. As I said, you should not touch outside of your mask, and also you should avoid touching your eyes, nose or mouth, because your hands may get contaminated because you touch surfaces, and surfaces may have contaminated droplets. So hence we should avoid touching your eyes, nose or mouth always. Then maintain respiratory hygiene. So whenever you are sneezing or coughing, you must cover your nose and mouth with a tissue or a handkerchief. In case you do not have anything to cover your mouth, you just sneeze or cough into your bent elbow, and then immediately wash your hands with soap. Then washing hands is very important. How to wash your hands? So you should wash your hands as frequently as possible whenever soiled, and you also you may use alcohol based hand rub also. So whenever the hands are visibly soiled, you must wash with soap and water. So these are the various steps in washing your hands. So first rub your hands palm to palm, then back of your hands, then washing your spaces between the fingers, then your back of.
लैपटॉप का ना चार्जर खराब हो गया है उसका, तार उसका कट गया है।
Please mute
तो बेटा
your
वो
mic.
मेरे को देना पड़ेगा तुम जल्दी में।
Please mute. Please mute.
Partho, please mute
Please
all.
mute.
Then your thumbs, both the thumbs, and then your nails. So this is how you wash your hands, and it usually takes about 40 to 60 minutes. So you must wash for at least 1 minute, cleaning all the parts of the hand, including the web spaces between fingers, thumbs, and nails. And we should avoid going out unless it is necessary. And when you have to go out, please keep a distance of at least 6 feet always. And the most important, do not circulate social media posts which carry unverified or negative information. So always seek information from credible sources. And in India, we have all the information available on Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website, or you can also go to the World Health Organization or CDC websites to get the information related to COVID-19. Do not believe everything which is there on social media. And in case you have any queries, you can always reach to us. So as I said, prevention is the most important part. Prevention is always better than cure, and this is the only method by which we can control the pandemic. And it is to be done at the individual level. Each one of us have to follow these precautions. And while we are following all the precautions, still we might get infected. In that case, as we had already discussed about the symptoms, if any one of us have the symptom, we must isolate ourselves immediately and get tested for COVID. And then we must be in contact with a physician. What we have seen, the people, they get prescription from relatives and friends, and they follow those prescriptions blindly. So this should not be done, because treatment is based on the severity of the symptoms, age of the patient, as well as presence of various comorbidities. So this treatment is individualistic. It's not a blanket treatment, same for everyone. And monitoring during treatment is also very important. So once you have symptom, you must contact your physician, and the physician will decide whether you need admission or you can be isolated at home. So you cannot decide on your own whether you want to stay at home or you want to go to the hospital. So you have to consult your physician based on your symptoms and various parameters. The physician will decide whether you are eligible for home isolation or not, and whether facilities of home isolation are there in your home or not. If you do not have a separate room with a separate bathroom, you may not be able to get isolated at home. In that case, you may go to some COVID care center, and the PWCA support group might help you in finding a place in COVID care center in case home isolation is not possible. So this is very important. Once you have symptom, isolate yourself, get tested, and consult a physician immediately. And regarding various logistics related to isolation and quarantine and various treatment modalities, I would request Dr. Samik to elaborate.
Thank you, Dr. Neelam. You can stop sharing the screen. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Neelam. That was very, very vivid. I think we must be very clear that certain aspects of wearing the mask, which you have told, must be followed by everybody. That's the key to it. If something will save us, is the mask followed by the vaccine. It's not vaccine followed by mask. It is mask followed by the vaccine. There is no second thought to it. Now the next aspect is when we have symptoms of COVID. As I said, most of the time it will start off as a common cold. So as soon as you have symptoms like common cold or fever or diarrhea or sore throat, the first step is to get tested and isolate yourself. And isolation means that you are not in 6 feet distance with anybody, and you are in a different room with different facilities like washroom, and somebody is some caregiver or the family members are able to serve you by keeping safe distance from you. Now, this is the requirement for home isolation. Now, if you're having the symptoms, then the first thing you get tested and then you consult a doctor. Why to consult a doctor? Because there are certain treatments which are very specific for this disease. And you will not get those drugs unless you have a prescription. So I will not go into the very big detail about the drugs because it's not fair to open up prescription details because treatment will always vary from person to person. But yes, there are some symptomatic treatments which you will need in the beginning. For example, for fever, you will need paracetamol. For high-grade fever, you can even take Meftal-Fort, which can be taking care of high-grade fever. You will need some anti-allergic to take care of the cough and the running nose, which is basically any cetirizine kind of drug. Montelukast plus cetirizine is a good combination which can take care of that. And you can have antiviral drugs like Fabiflu, but that will all depend upon your prescription from a treating physician. So once you have got tested, your test report is awaited, you have isolated yourself. The next step is to consult a physician. Either you go to a COVID dedicated hospital where you have OPD for seeing COVID patients, or you go take teleconsultation with a physician. Your family physician also can do that. At the same time, you have to run up some equipments which you should have to monitor yourself. When I said monitor, it has to be monitored. It is not a suggestion. It is to be done without fail. The monitoring parameters are the fever, the amount of fever you are having, either in Fahrenheit, preferably in Fahrenheit, so that there is a uniformity among all, and then the oxygen saturation, pulse rate, and any difficulty in breathing. Now, why there is a logic behind these monitoring parameters. If your pulse rate is high, your fever is high, basically means you have high viral load. You have more virus in your body. If you have more virus in your body, there is a more chance that the virus will trickle down from your nose to your lungs. And if it trickles down to your lungs, then obviously you will have destruction of the lungs, leading to fall in oxygen saturation, because the body will not get oxygen from the lungs because the lungs will not function as they normally should. And there will be a declining trend. The oxygen saturation will start falling from generally it is 98, 99, 100. It will start declining. And you are supposed to catch yourself in that declining trend. You are not supposed to react when it has already declined. That is the key to it. You are supposed to maintain hourly charting. I had circulated that patient information literature in the group. You have to monitor it so that you have a declining trend. As soon as you have less than 95 saturation, your fever is continuing to be high for about more than 5 days, it's a red flag. You must consult your physician to regarding this, and most of the time these are indications for admission. So on your part, this is what it is important. The basic drugs you have to keep are paracetamol and anti-allergic. If your doctors prescribe you Fabiflu, you can. An antibiotic like azithromycin and doxycycline. These are the drugs which are generally prescribed. I'm just naming them because maybe you can keep some as an exigency in your house. Now, regarding home isolation, there will be situations where home isolation may not be possible in your house because you may not have a separate room for you. Now, every district has COVID care centers which provide home isolation kind of facility for mild diseases. You can contact us or the district surveillance officer who can guide you to the COVID care center. One of the COVID care centers is in Commonwealth Village in our area, and the other is Yamuna Sports Complex. These are the COVID care center nearby our house. So this is all about the treatment and the monitoring. The take-home message is monitoring is very important. Testing is very important. There is no scope of not getting tested. Because another aspect of why testing is important, unless you have a COVID report, you will not go into a COVID ward when you will really need it. Because you will anyway be admitted, maybe possibly admitted in a suspect ward. And the suspect ward bed numbers are less. COVID positive bed numbers are more in hospitals. So if you don't have a COVID report, you will go into a suspect ward, COVID suspect cases ward, and the number of beds in those cases are less. So the possibility of getting admitted becomes difficult. But if you have a COVID positive report, you will straight away go into the COVID ward and the treatment straight away starts. There are certain drugs which are given only to COVID positive patients. So your COVID report is a very important aspect in management. So you have to get tested. There is no question of not getting tested. And I said monitoring. Monitoring is very important. I think we can go to the next part is vaccination, which will be taken up by Dr. Neelam. Thank you.
So regarding vaccination, we have very many vaccines which are under trials, and we have now many vaccines which are available globally as well as in India. As we all know, we have two vaccines which are being provided in India. Bharat Biotech vaccine, that is Covaxin, and AstraZeneca vaccine, that is Covishield. And probably soon we'll have a Sputnik V vaccine available. So here important to know is this vaccination program is being run on a digital platform which is called as CoWIN, that is winning over COVID. So this all is a digital platform. So this platform, this COVID management system, that is CoWIN, it deals with everything, including the cold chain, which is required from starting from the manufacturer to the vaccine store and the vaccination centers, then registration of beneficiaries for vaccination, then allocation of sessions, taking appointments, then giving vaccination, and also to track any adverse events which may occur following vaccination. So this all is being done through this particular software. So we have two vaccines available, Covishield and Covaxin. Till now, we used to give Covishield 2 doses at a gap of about 6 to 8 weeks, and Covaxin with a gap of 4 weeks. But recently, we have received recommendation from the National Technical Group, which is called as National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization. So they reviewed all the available evidence in terms of research data available. They reviewed all the data and they came up with certain new recommendations, wherein the most important change is that the Covishield second dose will be given after 12 to 16 weeks after the first dose, while the Covaxin will be continued to be given 4 weeks after the first dose. And also currently, we are not giving vaccination to pregnant and lactating women, but this the recommendation allows vaccination of pregnant as well as lactating women. And also it has recommended that all those who get COVID must defer their vaccination for at least 6 months after recovery. But in case someone has already received first dose and he gets infected with COVID, then he should wait for 4 to 6 weeks after recovery and then get vaccinated with the second dose. So these are the new guidelines as per the National Technical Group. So you must be then wondering then how to go about it if you have already booked online appointment for second dose of Covishield. In that case, you may either reschedule or you can also take the second dose as such after 6 weeks, because you have already pre-booked your vaccination. So CoWIN system will allow vaccination of such beneficiaries before 12 weeks also. But for further online appointments, it will not be possible to give second dose before 12 weeks. So this has to be kept in mind. So if you have already booked online appointment, you can get vaccinated. But now on, you will not get online appointment for second dose before 12 weeks of the first dose. So I'll show you a 5-minute video regarding how to get registered for vaccination. Is it visible?
There is no audio, I guess. Nilam, we can't hear any audio.
There is no audio.
Audio not required, I think, during this.
Okay, in that case, it's fine. Thanks.
not clear without audio.
হ্যাঁ? আচ্ছা। আচ্ছা। করছি।
Without audio, it is not clear.
निमाई ऑडियो नहीं है थे
You
হ্যাঁ,
need.
কিন্তু বললে পারে। She can speak.
Okay. So it is self-explanatory. If you have any queries regarding vaccination, you can always ask. So I'll close my session here. The house is open for question and answers.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neelam.
Thank you. It was a very nice
Thank
presentation.
you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sir, please wait for a second. Sir, please wait for a second.
Okay. Sorry.
I would request everybody to mute, and then whoever is asking a question can ask it after unmuting themselves. But I'll say, okay, you can go first, sir.
Partha, could you finish the questions which are there in chat box?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with Mr. Pushpal. There's a question: how safe are people post-vaccination, and what if people are not able to get the second dose, die to shortage of vaccine? Due to shortage of vaccine. I mean, it's written die, but due to shortage, I think. Babu or Dr. Shamik or Dr. Neelam can.
Dr. Neelam will take this up. This is regarding the vaccine.
So the question is,
how safe are people
post-vaccination?
Yeah.
So for both the vaccines, side effects are very few, and the side effects which most of the people will experience will include mild fever, headache, body ache, which are usually of short duration, maybe 2 to 3 days, and which can be relieved by taking paracetamol or any other analgesics. So the vaccines are very safe, both the vaccines, and we have not seen any serious adverse events following vaccination. And regarding shortage of vaccine, this would be difficult to answer about shortage of vaccine, but as of now there is some problem with the vaccine, but now it is being escalated. Production is being escalated. Probably in future we'll have more of vaccine, and we'll have more types of vaccines also available. So we'll have more of choice in terms of vaccines in the private sector.
Thank you. I'll go to the next question from Mr. N.N. Mahato.
Hello.
Any guidance for the people who are attending closed door AC offices, that is centralized AC offices? What are the precautions to be taken? Dr. Roy or Dr. Bhattacharya, anyone of you can answer this? The second question, any guidance for the people? Yeah, please.
There is no as such risk which has been shown by this thing, centralized air conditioned offices. There is no guideline regarding this. It is not an airborne infection. It is a droplet transmission which is from another person to another person. And the only place where it is considered as airborne is aerosol generating procedures, which generally happens in hospitals where you do nebulization or where patients are in ventilator, bag mask ventilations. In those cases, the aerosol is generated at a higher quantity, and in that case, it can be considered as an airborne infection. But as such, it is not. There is no evidence that it is airborne, and centralized air conditioner doesn't have any problem. But yes, lot of people inside a small room entails risk. So it is better with as any other social distancing norms will apply here also.
Okay, the next question again from Mr. Pushpal. We are expecting another wave affecting children. Any proactive measures to be taken?
So, see, for prevention, as we had already said, prevention is the key. So we must follow all the COVID appropriate behavior, and all the adults must get vaccinated as soon as possible. If we are protected, our children are also protected. So we have to get vaccinated, and we have to follow all the COVID appropriate behavior.
Thank you. Next question
Dr.
from
Neelam, sorry, Pushpal this side. Means I think the last question that I asked, that how safe are we after the vaccination? My intent was that how safe are we from COVID? Means
Okay.
after vaccination also I see people are getting infected. So is there something that we can get cured because we have taken the vaccines? We can get cured by doing home isolations and all?
Mhm. So no vaccine is 100% effective. So you may get infection, but it has been seen that those who get infected after vaccination, complete course of vaccination, they usually get less severe cases, and there are less chances of hospitalization. So it is always advisable to get vaccine. Even if you get infected, you will get only mild disease.
So it's
Okay.
Pushpal,
One
follow up to
question.
that only. Basically, after vaccination, you get antibodies, and you either get protected from an infection, or even if you get infected, your viral load is less. So if your viral load is less, lesser chances of lungs getting affected, because the infection will not trickle down to a severe level. So as Dr. Neelam said, the severe COVID part will be obviously not, will be uncommon. But the fact of the matter is, even after vaccination, the COVID appropriate behavior has to be followed. There is no question about going without it.
Sure.
Okay, next question from Devashish Majumdar. Can a COVID recovered person infect another not infected person in the house? Another not infected person in the house. Can a COVID recovered person?
Come again, it's not clear.
Can a COVID recovered person infect another not infected person in the house?
See, COVID transmission from another person is quite less after 10 days. So that is the reason, that is the end point of home isolation as per the guideline. But yes, the persons with higher bacteria, higher viral load have longer period of viral shedding. So a recovered person after 10 days, the chances of infecting others is pretty low.
Okay, thank you.
So, Babu, sorry, is an PCR test necessary for the recovered person?
See, for routine home isolation cases, mild diseases, repeat test is absolutely not necessary. Initially, it used to be 10 days of isolation followed by another 7 days. You are allowed to move out if you are asymptomatic, if you have no fever and cough for the last 3 days. Total of 70 days. Now it has been brought down to 10 days. But the severe cases which are admitted in the hospitals with higher viral load, there the guideline is that you have to get retested, but not the routine home isolation cases. You don't need to get retested.
Okay, thanks.
So the next from Partho, if someone has recovered from COVID, how long should one wait before going for vaccination?
If the person has not got any dose of vaccine, then as per the new guideline, he should not get vaccinated before 6 months. But if the person has received one dose, then second dose can be given 4 to 6 weeks after recovery.
Okay, thank you. So the another one from CAC 8A, whatever. For how many hours virus survives in doorknobs, lips, etc.? Dr. Nilam or Dr. Bhattacharya, can you?
Dr. Nilam, you can take.
It is very variable depending on the weather conditions. So the virus may survive for longer periods also if the environment is humid and cool. So we should clean the surfaces as frequent as possible and at least twice a day. And it has been seen that droplets, the infected droplets may remain for about 4 to 6 hours on the surfaces.
Okay, there's a question from Devashish Gupta. Devashish Gupta, you can ask your question. Devashish Gupta. Prashun, can you ask your question, please? I think Devashish is not there. Prashun, can you ask your question, please?
No, I have already written in my chat box and I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry.
No,
way down.
Yeah. First of all, thanks, Dr. Nilam and Dr. Nilam and Dr. Samik. Just by saying thanks, I don't think we can value the importance of this session for all of us. It has been absolutely informative and quite useful for all of us. The one request to either of you, if you can touch upon how this emotional part also can be taken care, because I've seen patients get into panic situation and they do not know what to do and how to handle this that particular news after getting infected positive. If you can share some guidance on how to handle that part, will be useful.
Yeah, see, the first part of handling a situation like this is to get the facts right. See, it is very clear that only 1/5 of the patients land up with involvement of the lungs. So most important part is that don't get perturbed that you will definitely need oxygen or ventilator. It is not so. Most of the cases are mild. Second, it is always a good idea to get tested and not get worried about. See, the worry is for two reasons. 3 reasons. One is that I might get very severe infection. Second is I will be confined in my house for 17 days. And third is that I will be infecting my own people. These are the main 3 worries which basically plague a person who is having symptoms. The first is you have to understand it is not a disease. It is a disease of less than 2% mortality. Right now, Delhi has about mortality of 1.5%. So it is not a very, very fatal disease as other diseases are. That if that you know this fact, then you are absolutely at ease. One. Secondly, you will not be infecting others if you follow COVID appropriate behavior as elaborated by Dr. Nilam. The chances of transmitting infection from a COVID person to another person is very low if both the persons are wearing masks and they are at a distance which is prescribed. So home isolation protocol to be followed as soon as somebody is infected, to understand that it is not a very, very fatal disease, unlike many other diseases. And the third is that you should not take this isolation as punishment. You should understand this isolation, you are doing a service to others. So you should not be very worried about this isolation part. So go about and get tested. There is nothing to panic about. Yes, there was a situation of panic in the initial part of the second phase when the beds and the oxygen issues were there. Right now, the beds are available in the hospital. So just get hold of yourself. Think that you have a disease which can be treated. And it is in your hand not to let others have it in the family. You take that responsibility on you that I will not let others get infected in the family. I'll be careful. I'll ask my family members to be careful. And it is very simple. Just wear mask and keep distance. And keep on monitoring. As I said, it is very important. COVID management is all about time. You have to understand that you have to stay one step ahead. It is not a question of going to the hospital when your saturation is below 90. You have to go to the hospital when you are almost falling below 95. So the logistics, I missed out in the logistic part, that you must have a thermometer at home and a pulse oximeter. These are the two important equipments you must have.
I would
Thanks,
like
thanks,
to
Dr. Samik.
Yeah, Neelam, Dr. Neelam, go ahead. Please.
Yeah, I agree with Prasunda, because most emotional support to the families is very important in case of COVID, because there is a fear related to COVID and COVID affected families. So I would request BWCA to call for volunteers who have recovered and come out of COVID, who can motivate and counsel the families, and they can also support the families, and they can share their experiences and the problems which they faced and how these can be solved. So it can be a good initiative from BWC.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. BWC will definitely note, I guess.
The self-help
take a
group
note of
really
this.
works. That's a wonderful idea, Dr. Neelam. We can have a couple of people who are young and enthusiastic who have recovered from COVID and form a group and reach out to people who have just tested. It's a wonderful idea.
Aram sir. Can I ask one question to Neelam, please?
Please go ahead.
Neelam, I just now, of course, you also know, because you keep on hearing, and you just now you told ki after taking 2 vaccines, if you even have COVID, it will be mild. I have seen that also, but I just want to ask you, how come my friend who has taken 2 doses of Covishield, and after 10 days, I don't know how she got infected. Maybe she went for the voting and all. So she was severely, her lungs was so badly affected that she was hospitalized, but still she is in the hospitalized for last more than 10 days. Okay. So how it happened? So that is actually also a very question of concerning. We are very worried about that also, because we have also taken 2 doses, and that I don't know how it's going to affect others and all, you know. So what do you say regarding this?
Yes, the optimum response to the vaccine, it usually takes 2 to 4 weeks after the second dose. So maximum response is after 2 weeks. So if you get infected before that, when your antibodies are not enough to control the virus and you have high viral load infection, then it might not be possible to prevent the severity of the disease. So it may be the case in this particular friend of yours, because she got infection 10 days after the second dose. So the antibody response usually takes 2 to 4 weeks after the second dose. So that can be the case. Also, it depends on the viral load of the particular infection, and what was the source of infection is also important.
Because, but another thing which I hear, I have read also, and which I hear, I know you'll be able to tell me more about this. After the first injection, your antibody, actually, you get more antibody than the second one.
No, it's not the case. You get maximum antibodies after 2 to 4 weeks after the second dose, and that is the protective level. You will get antibodies, some amount of antibodies, even after the first dose. But the protective level that is required to control the virus is usually after 2 to 4 weeks after the second dose.
Can I come in?
Please go ahead, sir.
Dr. Neelam, this example Mrs. Monidipa Ball is giving, has it not got something to do with efficacy also? Because 100% cases, the double dose will not protect.
Yes,
I think it
yes,
works
I
for
agree.
80-85% cases only.
Both the vaccines have efficacy of up to 80%. So 20% people might not get immunity also.
Yes, yes.
So that can also be the reason.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll take the next
One
question.
small question I want to ask.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes. Please advise how to go for a walk in the society compound in the morning, and precautions required using lift.
Yes, very valid questions.
As I said earlier also, we must follow all the COVID appropriate behavior. We should not touch surfaces, we should wear mask properly and keep distance. These are the key preventive measures and they have to be followed everywhere.
What about lifts? They
Huh.
seem to be, very dangerous place.
You should wear properly fitting mask as I discussed earlier also, and you should not touch.
So we can go for walk in the morning.
Please, others may please mute
Please
yourself.
mute themselves. They're getting too many voices.
Yeah, I'll take the next question from Saurabh. Dr. Nilam, in a few months, we would have a number of available vaccines in the market. How will a common man decide which vaccine should be taken? Will the government provide certain guidelines?
Fact sheets would be available for each vaccine regarding the efficacy, side effects, and then it is up to the individual to decide which vaccine they want to take.
Okay. One from Mr. Shushil Chokhani. It has been 1.5 months after the second vaccination. I'm still having pain in my arm, which started after first dose. Any remedy? I'm senior citizen. Kindly advise.
If you still have a pain, then you should go to the physician and get it checked. It may be due to vaccine or some other reason also. We have to see and examine and find out. But I think by taking analgesics, it can be relieved.
Thank you. From Mr. Shekhar Menon, post-COVID, what we need to do to retrieve smell?
And see, the retrieval of why you lose smell in COVID is your cells which pick up the smell gets destroyed and it will recover after some time on its own. So it's going to be a self-limiting thing. You need not do anything about it. You come back on its own.
Thank you. From Devashish Mujumdar, is there a harm if the second dosage is taken before the 12 to 16 weeks window?
As per the available evidence, the maximum immunity will develop if we take after 12 weeks. So it is advisable to take after 12 weeks.
Okay.
From Abhinav, for how long will the second dose of vaccine will be effective for?
So this is variable and it varies from individual to individual, and it is usually seen the immunity remains for from 3 to 6 months, and there are certain trials which are undergoing to give a booster dose also. So in future we might get more information regarding this.
From Mr. Kane, that the reason for development of black fungus and the remedy, please.
See, you get this it's a black this fungal infection of the lungs and the eyes and nose is known to happen after long duration of steroid therapy, especially in cases who are diabetics. So it is nothing new about it. ICU-based fungal infections are known. It is coming into fore because number of people having high doses of steroid in the ICU is pretty high. So preventive antifungals are being given in cases such cases, and it is a treatable thing. There are drugs available for it. The places where the people are succumbing to it is either not detected or the treatment is not given in time. Otherwise, very effective antifungals are available and they are generally prescribed to such patients.
Abu, a related point. Is it also true that people who are in the ICU on oxygen for more than 5 days, for which you give this cannula or whatever through the nose, that is also the reason for the black fungus?
The fungus is a pathogen or a microbe which will only grow when the immunity is very low. So the ideal ground for fungus is steroid therapy, immunocompromised state, long ICU stay, and mostly in diabetics.
Okay.
So nothing to do with the duration of oxygen therapy. It is more to do with the number of days the person is on steroids.
Okay.
Parthamitra, over to you.
Yeah, I think there is one Chaiti Bhomik who wants to ask question. Can you please unmute and ask question?
Good afternoon to everyone. I had to rush to Pune to look after my aged parents, and I'm still there. My query is, there are some diseases in the people, as you know, they are all 70 above. So there are certain diseases which is pending. So it's not being looked after because we are scared to go to hospitals. What should we do? The doctors are not over here. The doctors concerned to my parents, my uncle, aunt, they are not picking up the phone. So now whom do I contact and how do I get, things clarified? My uncle has enlarged prostate. We are not able to contact any doctor because of the COVID situation in Pune. So how do I go about? I am totally clueless.
I think in your state, I'm not sure about Maharashtra, but there are telemedicine centers which give consultation through telemedicine. You can try eSanjeevani. eSanjeevani is a telemedicine portal which is there in all AIIMS. All the AIIMS are giving telemedicine services through eSanjeevani.
Okay,
you can
doctor.
download eSanjeevani app in your Android phone and contact any
Okay,
of the
doctor.
AIIMS.
Okay. eSanjeevani app, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your suggestion.
So can I ask one last question?
Yes, Debu.
Yeah. To Dr. Sameh.
Debu,
Bol.
just one sec. Yeah, I mean, let us finish one questions first. Then we'll take the leading ones. I have taken from Shankan. I have taken my vaccination after 8 weeks. As per my new guidelines, will my vaccination will be effective? This is from Shankan.
If you have received Covishield and you have not yet scheduled your vaccination, second dose of vaccine, then you will get after 12 weeks only. So you have to reschedule your vaccination after 12 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Neelam. I have already taken my vaccination after 8 weeks. So I was asking whether my vaccination will be effective.
It has been seen that as we increase the duration, the amount of antibodies will be more as compared to the less duration or gap between two doses. So that is what the evidence is now. And earlier evidence was to have the vaccine between 6 to 8 weeks. So it will be difficult to comment. So you should get your antibodies checked and know your antibody status.
How do I do that?
So all the labs are doing antibody testing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One from Ms. Madhuban Ghosh. Second jab of Covishield, can you confirm if you already have your appointment scheduled in COVID? Can you go ahead with the jab in the second 6 to 8 weeks period?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Basically, she's asking, I think, even if your appointment is confirmed in COVID, she can take the jab in 6 to 8 for Covishield?
Yeah, she can get.
She can get. Okay.
If she has already scheduled her
Scheduled
vaccination.
happened. Okay. Another, Devashish Majumdar, can you please go ahead? Devashish?
Yeah, I just had a small question to Babu. Many people have been, I would say majority of us are avoiding domestic help to for the fear of infection. So what are the guidelines or suggestions that you have for the domestic helps to be allowed inside your house?
There is nothing called domestic help is not to be called or to be called. The basic idea is to have a COVID appropriate behavior of people around you. If you can ensure what Dr. Neelam just said, that they wear proper mask and they wash hands and you keep a safe distance from them, it is fine. But at the same time, see, it's kind of a bubble kind of thing. Why people are being asked to stay at home and not to interact? It's basically that your home people you're just interacting with limited number of people whom you know are not infected. But in case of domestic help who are going to different houses and obviously not staying in the house in which you are staying, they are getting infected or not, you don't know. So that aspect of transmission from them is still there. And it's very obvious that you can get infected from them.
Okay, Vishwarup Mukherjee, you can ask your question.
Hi, this is Vishwarup. My one question is about the aerosol and the airborne kind of thing what Dr. Bhattacharya has explained a little bit. There has been a lot of reports pertaining to the airborne kind of thing, and which we just understood is that it is not that airborne. And I think a little more set of clarity is just required on these two aspects. Whether it is really airborne or what kind of, measures really to be just taken care of.
I think I've already made it clear. Anything to be added, Dr. Neelam?
As of now, there is no evidence, no concrete or definitive evidence of COVID being airborne. So we are considering it as a droplet infection only, but droplets can be on surfaces. They can stay for long and they can we can get infected through droplets. So we have to follow all the precautions as we have already discussed.
See, I'll just add on to this. The droplet is basically the breath a COVID infected person is breathing out. It has small droplets of mucus and water, which is carrying the virus.
Right.
Now, the length at which this particular droplet can travel will depend upon the speed with which the breath air is coming out. If somebody is jogging, I have seen it number of times in the parks. If somebody is jogging without mask, he's breathing very heavily. So that distance of 6 feet is obviously becoming 12 feet because he's breathing heavily, and the carrying capacity of that expressed air is longer to carry those droplets. The second part is that you can have is the sneezing. Sneezing carries the droplets for a longer distance. So that's why, as Dr. Neelam had said, the etiquettes, while respiratory etiquettes in which you have to cover your face while sneezing. And the third thing is that nebulization. Nowadays, many people have nebulizers at home. Nebulizers do cause aerosol generation, and that can carry the virus particles to a whole room because the aerosol is continuously being generated. It is not episodic like breathing. It is continuously generated. The room slightly gets saturated with those aerosol and can infect other people. So generally we say that in case you have to give medicines in the respiratory tract, don't use nebulizer, but use inhalers with spacers. In Budecort, budesonide inhaler is generally prescribed to COVID patients with respiratory symptoms, and it is advisable that you don't use nebulizer at home, use inhalers. That's the till now what is the evidence about transmission.
And droplets are usually heavier, so they usually settle down fast. They don't travel too far. But aerosols, they are dangerous because they can spread to longer distances.
I have just one more question. If you can please entertain. Shall I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Nowadays, we are seeing number of media reports every day. Whenever we open the television, number of experts giving number of opinions about all these aspects what we are discussing also. So as a common man, common people, they might get also very much confused with so many expert opinions from different angles. Do you think, Dr. Neelam and Dr. Bhattacharya, that we can have a standard operating procedure sort of thing? Like, I mean, one should really act on.
The guidelines, as Dr. Neelam said, are already there in the Ministry of Health website. It's a very explicit guidelines regarding treatment, regarding home isolation, regarding what Dr. Neelam said about prevention. The whole thing, whatever we are saying is only based on those guidelines. So those SOPs and guidelines are also already there in the public domain. And that slide was very important, Dr. Neelam, that regarding social media impact on pandemic. It's better not to believe which is not certified, which is not verified. If you have any doubt, you can always contact a person who is knowledgeable enough to give you some advice and the informations which are credible and available in government websites. You can always refer to them. And there is a fact sheet about, basic fact sheet about patient care and home isolation, which are already shared, is also based on Government of India guideline. It's not my own opinion.
Okay, there's another question from Mr. Tamal Ganguly. I'd like
Can
to
I
ask.
just take a line?
Yeah.
In a lighter mood, see the news, Doordarshan, 8 to 8:30 in the evening, then go to see the movies. Don't see other channels.
Brilliant, Jarinda, brilliant.
Doordarshan news, 8 to 8:30.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, from Tamal Ganguly, I will like to ask a question. My brother Debashish in Manasali, who took first dose of vaccination and got infected after 5 days. His CT scan of lung was done, and he had 40% of infected lung. Doctor prescribed steroids. How now better? But what precautions to take? Dr. Roy or Dr. Bhattacharya?
Actually, he should follow all the advices given by the doctor. And regarding second dose of vaccination, he should get the second dose only 4 to 6 weeks after recovery, because he has recovered from all the symptoms.
Okay, now one from Piyush, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It's an awesome session, both Dr. Neelam and Dr. Khamik. I just want to ask, like, how long to be taken precaution after quarantine at home from non-infected family members? And interconnected, another question is there any chance of kids getting infected after we will have vaccinated? Plus, how to improve immunity among the eldest one and the youngest kids?
I think you repeat the first part again.
First part is how long to be taken precaution after quarantine at home from non-infected family members.
So you mean to say that you have somebody has got infected and has gone through 17 days of quarantine and isolation, and so as I said, that after 10 days, it is very unlikely that somebody will transmit the infection again, unless he is getting infected again by another strain or something. But after 10 days, the person is non-infective in mild cases. And you need not get tested also. But severe COVID cases, the viral load is more. So we have to have a negative COVID report in their case. And if you have a negative COVID report, obviously the person is not infected.
And the second question, is there any chance of kids getting infected after we will have vaccinated?
See, if you get vaccinated, as Dr. Neelam said, you can get infected. People are getting infected.
Okay.
Although they are getting mild diseases. And if the person gets infected, he is infective to others.
Okay. And how to improve the immunity system for the elder and the kids?
So have a good diet and that's it.
Okay.
Diet is key to immunity, diet and exercise.
I have a question, Partho.
Yeah, please go
Thank
ahead.
you.
আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল।
Please go ahead, Mr. Sarkar.
Dr. Samik Bhattacharya, see now every family has 1 or 2 diabetic patients. So it's my small query, also a worry. The medicines which we are taking for diabetes, whether they are steroids or not.
See, medicines you are taking for diabetes are not steroid. They are just the opposite.
Then it's fine.
Yeah, they are not. But yes, the concern is if you are diabetic, you come in the category of high risk patients where you might need hospitalization because of severe disease. And second is that giving steroids in diabetic patients is a double-edged thing because your insulin requirement goes up if you give steroids. So one needs more stringent monitoring of blood glucose in case the patient needs steroid in diabetes.
Thank you.
So that has to be done in hospital.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there will be a lot more questions, and this is a never-ending. It can be never-ending, So I think we should sum up today, and we will come back again in a couple of weeks for everybody. I would request Shantanu to sum it up, and if Dr. Bhattacharya can do a sum up, and Shantanu can close the session.
Yeah, I think everything has been touched upon. The point which is very important, which has been missed out till now and very wisely suggested by Dr. Neelam, was the self-help group of COVID survivors who can really help others. If we can make that group in our society, it will definitely make an impact. Because the impact of COVID on family members is pretty bad. I have seen a couple of cases where close people from my circle, it is really affecting them. So this self-help group is a thing which we can definitely go about. And the second thing is that there is a lot of reason to not to get panic if we get infected, and to get tested as soon as we have the infection. It is very important to get tested. There is no scope of sitting at home and not getting tested. There is no point of thinking that 17 days of incarceration is going to be bad. Ultimately, you are doing that for others, that you are isolating yourself. Think that it is a service to the society that you are isolating yourself. And third thing is obviously the preventive measures which Dr. Neelam has said. Please don't wear masks the way Dr. Neelam showed that side on the ear and the chin. So there is no point of doing that. It is very, very important to wear masks, even if you are vaccinated. And the last is that monitoring. COVID is all about time. If you are not ahead of time in deciding, if you are not monitoring yourself, if you are not consulting the doctor in time, if you are not getting tested in time, the time will not give you that luxury of going to the treatment in time. So, Dr. Neelam, if you want to add anything else, which I must have missed.
Dr. Samik has already summarized all the points which were discussed. So we must follow the key rule: prevention is better than cure. So we must follow all the COVID appropriate behavior. I thank the organizers for inviting us for this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a very, very, very good initiative by BWCI. It was very well
Thank
timed.
you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Neelam, Dr. Samik.
Thank you.
And such a nice.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr. Neelam.
bye.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neelam and Dr. Smith. And thank you to the organizers also. It's a very
Yes,
good
of course.
initiative.
Shantanu.
Yeah, this brings us to the end of our webinar. Big thank you to our panelists for joining us. We will definitely like to host you again sometime soon. And a big round of applause to our audience for taking off time from a busy Sunday and joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.